I'd like to reopen the Village of Bronxville Board of Trustees meeting for December 12, 2022, and just ask all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, we start with the mayor's report, and to my colleagues, chime in if I have forgotten anything, because so much has been going on. I just thought I would share that this is sort of unprecedented, that we are mostly due to injuries. We are currently down 3 policemen and 3 gentlemen in the DPW, and that has affected some of our special patrols, and it's affected the speed with which we pick up leaves. We are tonight announcing the hiring of 2 police officers, and we still have to canvass for a 3rd, and then we're just waiting for medical reports on our DPW personnel. But when your department only has a little over 20 people, missing 3 is a significant amount. Just some other issues. We continue our program of lining sanitary sewers. We're spending a lot of money, as we should, on our water infrastructure. So that program, I think we're in phase 3 or 4 of that program. We've been reviewing the concept of a tree ordinance, and we've been looking at other people's, other communities' ordinances and trying to take good ideas. And tonight we were talking about we will probably have a public work session in the near future to discuss issues like that require a lot of thoughtful conversation. We've also contracted with a dining consultant, it's probably a better term for that, but as to help us figure out, now that COVID is waning, thankfully, how we should handle our outdoor dining, what standards we should have, whether it should be year-round, whether we have summer dining. We have to deal with it, and frankly, since none of us are experts and it greatly affects people's livelihoods, we thought, in fairness, we had to get some professional planning help. On our issue of what we kind of, our theme this year is the theme of walkability, and we have sort of 4 different projects in the works, where tonight we will have a resolution to partner with our neighbors in Tuckahoe to continue the sidewalk. They're going to fix their sidewalk from Tuckahoe to the village border on Midland, and we are going to fix the sidewalk from Avon Road to Tuckahoe so that it will be easier passage between the 2 communities. We're also working on the West Side Circle. And honestly, this is really, anybody that's listening, we really need your input, because what we have out there, we hired a traffic engineer to help us, frankly, make it more pedestrian friendly and also easier for cars to navigate proper signage. But now that our temporary stanchions, et cetera, we're requiring, we really need people who travel that route or walk that route or live near it to give us their input so that we can tweak our plan. So honestly, we're actively soliciting your help on the West Side Circle. You also notice we're still working on Pond Field in Midland. We've bumped out the sidewalks, and we're waiting for some more equipment, again, to make that intersection more pedestrian-friendly. We also, as to the crosswalk on 22, we are now just contemplating our next steps. We're interviewing, we did interview a traffic engineer, but we don't have any contract or agreement signed, and we're also looking at further and better outreach to village residents on the issue of just, again, seeking input on people who are nearest this particular thing. And just wanted to share with you that it's anything we do will come before this board in form of a resolution, so we will keep you all apprised of it. I would say right now we're at a pause, I guess, is probably the proper word, because in the winter you can't pour concrete. January, February, we just thought we'd step back and plan our next steps, and frankly, because it's the winter season, it made sense. And let me make sure that just a couple nice things. Just I wanted to congratulate, and I think we're going to have them next Sunday. We traditionally, any of our school teams that win championships, and I think next week Santa is coming. Santa got rained out. Yes. And so we're going to honor Victoria McEnroe, who won the state singles tennis title. First time ever for the village to have a tennis champion. And in another first time, our boys cross-country team won the state title. So we're going to honor both tennis and cross-country at our little event on, I think it's 3 o'clock on Sunday. There's going to be carolers, I think Santa, maybe Frosty the Snowman, and then we're going to honor some of our Bronxville students.
Sunday the 18th.
On Sunday the 18th, thank you. And I think I hit on most topics, but trustees, is anything new or amplify on anything I might have mentioned? Trustee Barrett.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I had the pleasure to attend the Rotary Club holiday lunch today on behalf of the village, and President Carey of Iona University was there as the keynote speaker. As you know, Iona has purchased the Concordia campus, and they're doing construction and getting it up and running. So he updated the Rotary on all the exciting things that are going on at Iona University. It's now gone from a college to a university, which is a great step for them. And in particular, he updated folks on what's going on, particularly at the Bronxville campus. The Bronxville campus will welcome students in January, and for their health sciences graduate program. And he also noted that there's no plans to have any students living on Concordia's campus. So that is not in the works as of now, nor in the foreseeable future. And the students will be taking a van from the New Rochelle campus to Concordia and back and forth. And the turf field also, you probably have noticed that, that's part of Iona now, has been completed, and he's, intramurals will be playing there among some other teams for him. So.
Where are they going to play lacrosse?
They're going to probably use that turf field for practice for lacrosse, yeah. I'm not sure where they'll have their games.
I know he mentioned, which frankly will help the village, that none of the Bronxville fields are going to be used for sanctioned games. They're all going to be practice fields.
Right.
And that greatly minimizes, frankly, the number of cars that folks maybe want to come see their children play, that our field will be practice fields.
And then, Mayor, I also had a second report regarding Maltby Park, which is a project that Jim, the mayor, and I have been working on with Ashley Sharp, a village resident. regarding redesigning Mulpe Park. And if you recall, Mulpe Park is right next to the paddle courts. It's 2.6 acres of grass. It's utilized, but we think it's underutilized, and that there could be a better design for the park down there in making it prettier and more useful. And the plan is to add another to supplement a playground. We have one at Sagamore Park, but there's not a lot of parking there, and it's quite small. So the plan is to have another playground at Mulpe Park, along with lots of benches and picnic tables and various community spaces. As you know, preschool children they can't use the school during school hours, so during Monday through Friday, they can only use Sagamore Park. And so there is really a desire in the village to have another park. So she came to the village, as I told at the last meeting, to do a public-private partnership, which we're engaging with her on. She's created Friends of Mulpe Park, which will be her fundraising vehicle, and they will do the majority of the fundraising, although they have asked the village for some money. And so we will contemplate that in January at the meeting. And they will purchase and install and erect the new playground and the new park. And then once it's completed, the playground will become the village's responsibility. We will take on the responsibilities of maintaining it. And this kind of project has occurred elsewhere in Westchester, most notably in Larchmont. And we will post the site plan shortly on our village website, so you can be on the lookout for it. And if anyone is interested in giving input on this park, we would more than happy to have input or thoughts, or if you want to join up with the committee, please reach out to Jim, the mayor, or myself, or any of the other trustees. And we just wanted to give an update on this exciting new project. It's going to be a really good, I think, if it comes to fruition, it will be a really nice new look for the village in that part of town. And we are looking forward to sharing the draft concepts and solicit comments from the neighbors, most importantly, in early January.
Deputy Mayor, what did I forget? Anything that
Shop local.
Shop local, that's right. I did, thank you. Thank you. Because I was working on this week's column, and our treasurer will know happily that our local sales tax numbers came in $90,000 higher than the same time last year, and that's directly related to people shopping local. So thank you, and I'm so glad you said that. Trustee Knapp.
Just a quick note, I think many of you know that Dr. Roy Monsanto, who's been superintendent of the Bronxville schools since 2017, is sadly retiring at the end of this month, and the school is having a community celebration on the 22nd of December from 5 to 7 at the auditorium to commemorate his tenure. He's been such a great partner for the school and the community. His vision, his leadership through the COVID pandemic really was extremely valuable for so many of us. So that's the 22nd from 5 to 7 at the auditorium, whoever can make it.
And Trustee Fredericks.
Just for the record, the turf field at Iona is actually in Tuckahoe. It's the one piece of the old Concordia campus, which is actually in Tuckahoe rather than in Bronxville. Just for the record, so we don't offend any jurisdictional sensibilities with our friends in Tuckahoe. The only other thing I'd mention, I meant to mention this to some of my trustees before, and I've mentioned this idea in the past, and I think it may be coming up in the context of the tree ordinance. I personally feel that the village has lost some canopy within the village, and also in particular, trees that were in the public right-of-way that have just come down over the years. The village is about, a lot of building in the village was done in the 1920s. A lot of those trees are now 90 to 100 years old and have just come down through natural wear and tear. And so I will try to put a more formal proposal in writing or a concept piece. But I think that there is room for the village to create something of a public-private fund for people who are on a street who might say, you know, there are no trees on this section of the street. Is there an easy, efficient, streamlined way that we can plant a tree and with input from the Green Committee and with neighbors to just try to create sort of a fund that isn't entirely the village's responsibility to replace trees? I think that might be a piece of looking at our tree ordinance issue. But I've mentioned the idea before, and I'm going to try to put something a little more concrete. But again, people in the audience are watching on TV who have thoughts, pro, con, neutral, feel free to forward them. Because I think there should be ways, if a community or people on a street want to have a tree planted in the public right-of-way, that we should have better procedures for doing that.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Fredericks. All right, moving on, I need a motion to approve.
Oh, can I just clarify a couple items?
Oh, yeah, I cut you right out, Village Administrator. I am terribly sorry, Mr. Palmer.
I just want to remind everyone that the second half payment for the village school tax is due on Tuesday, January 3rd. We're, of course, the first is a holiday, and we're closed on that Monday. So the last day to pay the second half without penalty is Tuesday, January 3rd. And again, for this year, you can now also pay online through the village's website. So we tried to make that process easier for everyone.
Yeah, and just so people know, my understanding is that it's state law that you have to pay by that date or you get a penalty. There's no discretion that the village has in terms of waiving that penalty. So people just have to get it in.
Absolutely, no authority to waive that penalty at all, and we did discuss that at the municipal officials' dinner the other night. Also, just a reminder that for the holiday schedule, the village will be closed Monday, December 26th, and also Monday, January 2nd, and that's for all employees, those 2 Mondays. Eastchester Fire District elections for fire commissioner is tomorrow here at Village Hall from 2 to 9 p.m. And we've also sent some notices. We sent the notice out over the weekend about the free parking. So in the spirit of shopping local, the village does have or is offering free parking in our municipal lots in the downtown with the exception of the Cedar lot for both this Saturday, the 17th, and also Christmas Eve on the 24th from noon on. So we'll send those out. And just also a reminder that the use of the gas-powered leaf blowers pursuant to the legislation that the board adopted last year are prohibited effective this Thursday, commencing on the 15th until March. So we just ask that everyone be respectful of their neighbors and not use the gas-powered blowers.
It's December 15th through
to
March
March 15th. Yep, and then they will resume again.
And Jim, could you just clarify, will there be a change of the refuse pickup effective, so the January 1, does that go into effect?
There just won't be any collection on that Monday, and I'll send out alerts on that for everyone in advance.
And also the day switch will send out the first of the year.
Right. Right. And actually, the new calendar is also available on the village's website. We'll send another reminder out on that, and hard copies are available. All right, that was all that I have.
Just by way of explanation, people wonder why we only give free parking noon on. And the issue we found out when we gave all-day free parking, people were parking in front of stores and then going to the city for the day. And the merchants asked us to please not do that anymore, to give free parking from noon on. So it sounds like a little, bifurcated, a little cheap, but that's to help the merchants on that one. Okay, thank you, Jim, and sorry. All right, I need a motion now for the approval of 3 sets of minutes, an executive and work session, November 14th, a regular meeting of November 14th, and the special meeting that we held November 21st. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Again, thank you, Mary Ann, for terrific minutes.
I just had a few nits that I gave to Mary Ann earlier.
Perfect. Council, just to we're just continuing the public hearing on the possibility regarding the setting of the speed limits in the village. Do I need a motion to continue it?
Motion to reopen it.
Okay, so do I have a motion to reopen our public hearing to possibly amend our vehicle and traffic law?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Just as a little public information, before we pass this, we are required to have and review a traffic engineer's report. In the ideal world, we thought we'd have the report in enough time for the trustees to review it carefully. We received it late this afternoon, so we are going to be voting. This issue, we have to continue until January because we have to do our due diligence. That's just what we're supposed to do. But we also thought tonight we would post this engineer's report on the village website, just so residents could read it as well. So this would be the opportunity, as we do with public hearings, if anybody wants to talk on the subject of the public hearing, which is 25 miles an hour, this would be your chance. I think last month we had over, well, about I was going to say 25 people speak, about 25 in favor and one person not in favor. But if anybody wants to talk about that issue.
And the engineering report will be put under Safe Streets button on the website.
Okay, that's a,
Banner.
Would it make sense if maybe Jim could just summarize real quickly what that engineer's report consists of, just so people will get a sense of what the engineer was looking at and why it's important for
us,
our decision?
yeah.
Sure, so the village-wide, again, the engineer was charged with reviewing and completing an analysis on local streets to determine the current rate of speed on various streets. The consultant also noted that the village-wide limit is currently at 30 miles an hour. Of course, the board's considering reducing it to 25. We do have one street in the village that's currently at 25 pursuant to the village code, that's Sagamore. And then, of course, we have several sections in and around the school where the speed limit is currently 20 miles an hour. So the consultant didn't review those locations, but the consultant did conduct traffic counts with a sample of 100 at several locations, including Woodland, including also Midland. In the case of Woodland, it would be 100 counts in either direction, east and westbound. Also Midland Avenue between Sycamore and Avon, north and southbound. Parkway Road was also analyzed, as well as Pondfield. And the good news is that in all those streets, 85% of the samples taken, 85% of the samples were at or under the existing speed limit. So those are the locations. That was the data. That actual data taken by the consultant was complemented by counter tubes that were put down by Westchester County Department of Transportation in the spring of this year. Those were put down on Midland Avenue and on Parkway Road. And then the data was also complemented by the download of our speed indicators that were digital speed displays at a couple locations. So that was the summary of the data. The engineer did certify that it, excuse me, is compliant with the requirements set in the vehicle and traffic law to certify that the village roads would be eligible for that reduction.
thank you. And we'll put that up on the website under the Safe Streets. All right, anyone want to talk about 25-mile-an-hour speed limit at this juncture? Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. You invited me to come back. You may be sorry. No, teasing. I sent an email to Jim outlining a lot of what I want to talk today. I don't think this is a trustee issue, but I do think you'd be interested. Thursday morning, I was heading.
Could you just give us your
I'm
name?
David Stern, I live at 25 Sagamore. By
Perfect.
the way, I want to add to your comments about President Carey. He was very praising of all of you for making Iona feel so welcome in the village. And he talked about the responsiveness of the village. So I think you should know that. Thursday morning, I was heading to a Rotary breakfast committee, and my neighbor, Sarah, she was 10 years old now, was waiting on the stride right at the crosswalk of Christ Church, and she was standing there. No cars were coming up, no cars were coming down, and she was immobilized. So we walked across the street together, and she got to the other side, and she thanked me, and she said, "I'm afraid of cars." Sarah was hit by a car 2 months ago. She was 9 then, she lived to her 10th birthday. And I was puzzled. I initially thought it must have been a car zooming down Sagamore, heading into the village. And then I said, maybe it's a car making a left turn off of Valley. And I talked to her mother. No, it was a car coming northbound in a school zone. He stopped and he hit her, but he didn't seriously injure her. She has some trauma, I guess. I couldn't figure it out. It's a school zone. And I walked the path, and I realized that the school zone sign northbound is completely hidden by the outdoor dining of La Casa Bronxville. There is no school zone sign northbound. For practical reasons, there's none. So, inspired by all the work on 22, I started wandering around Sagamore. And I noticed that the southbound traffic heading into the village, the school zone sign must be 500 or 600 feet above the crosswalk, above the church school. And then when you come around the curve, you still don't see what is it called, the traffic light that tells you how fast you're going. And you only see how fast you're going when you're within 100 feet. And people are not going 25. They're going 30 and above in many cases. And if by that time that they see how fast they're going, they don't have much time to stop at that crosswalk. So I would hope that we can reconsider, I think we're all, and I am a NIMBY. We want the village to be great, but not on our dime. But I would say, I'm only 15 feet from the street. But if we could have one of the crosswalks like we have across from Midland Garden and the church, so that kids like Sarah, and there are 11 other kids in our building who head to school that way, would be safer, so I get a little light into my apartment. There are a whole bunch of other things I'm glad to hear that village walkability is a priority. I am really impressed with the Western Traffic Circle. I sit out there walking to and from the park, and I see cars now jam on the brakes if you start walking across the pathwalk, and that wasn't happening before.
No.
It really has made a tremendous improvement. I would like to request the crosswalk that leads from one side of Bronx Park across West Pondfield to the other, near 72 Pondfield West. There is no crosswalk sign there. So if we,
Yeah.
really, Jim, I looked today.
Okay.
And the crosswalk sign that was outside Christ Church was demolished and hasn't been replaced.
Okay.
Again, that's not trustee issue, but I just want, so going back to the Parkway, last time Parkway Road, I think the only people who opposed the lowering of speed limit were a couple of people who said, lowering the speed limit won't help unless we strictly enforce traffic regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should do it, and then we shouldn't try. But there are a lot of things we might want to consider. I was in Bethesda, Maryland, and they do use speed cameras. Yonkers uses them.
We can't legally.
I know you can't legally, but I am going to speak to certainly Assemblywoman and see if they could begin to think about it, because there's a lot of benefits to doing that. And we can't stretch our police force any more than we have. And so I would thank you for your time, and thank you for all you're doing for the village.
Thank you, and thank you for your ideas, and we will keep them certainly under consideration, and also I will mention to the police chief the configuration of signage right now on Sagamore Road. So, thank you. Okay. All righty. Then I'm just going to leave this public hearing open, correct?
If you don't have anybody else who wants,
Oh, anyone else wants to talk on 25 miles an hour? No.
you can just
Okay.
take a motion to adjourn it to whatever meeting you're going to.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn it. Jim, what is the date of the January meeting?
January 9th?
To adjourn this hearing until January 9th.
I'll move it.
In a second.
second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, now to the new business. The first is authorizing purchase and obviously funding of Fuel Master upgrades for the DPW garage. And Mr. Palmer, this just looked to me like something, it was wear and tear. Would anything you want to amplify? I know it's $17,800.
Just that the school district has agreed to share in the cost of that system, and this will be for our, for the diesel fuel dispenser, so that we can automate it and upgrade the access so that someone has to have the programmable access code to be able to utilize it, and it also give us the automated readouts of consumption. And again, the school is going to share in that cost since they recently purchased a new bus, and
That's right.
told them that they would be able
And
to
there's
use
separate
that.
billing to the district with the.
And they will be billed back on that system. So multiple reasons for doing that. And it's, again, the total cost was $17,806, and the resolution just says authorizing the use of unassigned fund
Yeah.
balance.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And the next one is authorizing funding for emergency storm drainage line repair on Dusenberry. I had a question before the damage was done by Con Edison. Are we authorizing repair immediately with village funding and then seeking reimbursement from
Yes,
Con Ed?
yes. Yes, our allegation is that Con Ed did the damage to that line, and but we had to make the immediate repair, so this is somewhat of a housekeeping and authorizing the use of, again, fund balance, but documented the condition. Con Ed is claiming that there's a little bit of a battle going back and
Okay,
forth.
but we're
But
going to
seeking
fix it, but seek
It's-
reimbursement. That's all I would, okay.
They are not, they're not admitting fault yet?
Yeah, what's the likelihood of getting reimbursement from?
I'm sure we're going to be able to come to an agreement with Con Ed.
Okay.
All right, then do I need a motion to authorize this
So
funding?
moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes. All righty, and then we have two tax certiorari settlements.
I'm sorry, there was just one other item before that, also
Yeah.
another emergency repair, and again, in conjunction.
Oh, we have two storm
Yes,
line
just
repair,
as though we've
okay.
been televising all our sanitary sewer lines, we're also televising all our stormwater lines to make sure we have maximum capacity, and in televising a section of our line on Avon Road between Sagamore and Kensington, we had to facilitate a repair, so I'm just authorizing fund balance for that $27,000 repair.
All right, I'll move that. And do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, it's on to two tax certiorari settlements, and I'm just so pleased with these. They have to do with the Acme Supermarket and 80 Park Avenue, and they have been, one of them has been around the Acme from 2017 and the other from 2019, and we've instructed our assessor to just clean up these rolls and just get some of these settled. Jim, do you have the number off the top of your head, what our cost on this is?
Sure, the village refunds for the Acme lot, again, it was consisted of two parcels, the reduction is on the Improved parcel, total village refunds of $10,084 for the
Okay.
years 2017 to 2022.
I think we did very well. We did this in pre-trial negotiations so that we didn't have the expense and time of going to a trial. So do I have a motion to accept both of those certiorari settlements?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And then this resolution is what I spoke to in my mayor's remark, that we retained a professional to help us evaluate our on-street dining program. And we just need to formalize our relationship. So do I have a motion to,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can just mention for the record that
Sure.
we interviewed 2 potential consultants. I think all or most of the board were on Zoom to interview representatives of both, so we aren't, shooting in the dark here. We had a chance to review their proposals and
This was
talked
following an
about this.
sort of RFQ process.
right?
Yeah.
Right, we went out for the whole process, and we had 2 people interested and who qualified, and we interviewed them both, and we all chose this particular.
Both very qualified, too, by the way.
Right, good point.
And Street Plans has done a lot in New York City.
Right, Street Plans, the company we chose, actually did the beautiful work outside of 1 Vanderbilt when you go into Grand Central Station. They did the streetscape there. So do I have a motion to accept our professional evaluator?
I'll move it.
In a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And then, Bob, do you want to do the police appointments, since you are integral to our relationships in,
Oh, so we have, as the mayor mentioned, we're down 3 officers, and we have had an effort out to hire 3 more officers, and so we have resolutions here to hire 2. We have 1 woman who is coming to us from New York City, and another person who will be coming to us and who we'll be sending to the police academy, so will be a rookie. So we have a resolution, and these are extraordinary, really extraordinary people. We, as all the trustees, interviewed both of these candidates following a very thorough vetting process by our police. And we're just incredibly impressed by the quality of the people and their desire to be in the village of Bronxville. So the first resolution, should I do 2 of these at once, Jim?
You
Do them individually.
Oh, do them individually?
Please.
Okay, the first resolution is authorizing the appointment of Kevin Iglesias as a police officer. And he will be the candidate that will be going to the police academy as a rookie. Do I have a motion?
I move it.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And then the second candidate is Nicole Longo, who is joining us, will be joining us from New York City. She lives in Yonkers, and she has been in the Bronx responding to 911 calls. So she has seen a lot and is incredibly excited to be here. And we're really excited to have her. So I'd like a motion to accept the resolution to appoint, thank you, Mary, get a second. Trustee Fredericks, all in favor?
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
So I'd like to congratulate and just show our appreciation to the chief and all of the people that worked with the chief to do the vetting and the go review the applications. The work they do to vet these officers is extraordinary. So it's meeting with all neighbors and relatives, going over social media, searching county, state, and federal databases. It's an extremely thorough vetting that our officers go through.
Yeah, and the proof is really in the pudding, because the quality of the candidates that the chief has brought to us, at least in the 2.5 years I've been on the board, they've been uniformly, great. It's a real testament to the chief and to his vetting team, as well as to the candidates.
Yeah, I would echo that.
Yeah.
That's one of the great elements of Bronxville, is that we have a police force of 23 to 24 people, and so our chief can know every single individual very, very well. So the chief is able to really make this family and really know the strengths and weaknesses of every officer. Very fortunate.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. And the next one is just housekeeping. It's for us to formally approve our 2023 Board of Trustees meeting calendar. And for the public, it's always the second Monday of the month, save for when that Monday is a holiday, and then we move it to Tuesday. And that, our calendar, we will post on the website as well. So do I have a motion to accept our calendar?
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And Mr. Palmer, you did all the work on this IMA for the shared services recycling app, so I ask you to give a little brief history.
It's just a continuation of a program we try to share with our neighboring municipalities whenever possible, and we do have some 18 municipalities that have received funding through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation grant for the last few years to try to encourage our residents in the community, businesses, to use the online app to be able to look at scheduling for pickups and determining their day of collection. So again, funded through New York State DEC in coordination with some 18 other villages now participate in this program. So it's
18
it's
including us.
Yes, so it's cost effective. So if you just authorize continuing this for 2022, and we're working on applying for 2023 now.
Perfect. Do I have a motion to continue this? And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, one
And-
more. It seems
yes.
One more resolution seems to be missing here, but it's for the award of contract 2206, which is retaining contractors for emergency sewer work. So you saw earlier, we had some emergency work done. We try to get quotes whenever possible. However, we went out to bid and quoted various amounts of pipe and excavation, et cetera, and received proposals, bids from 4 very qualified contractors. So we have a recommendation from our engineer to authorize retaining all these 4 companies as needed to perform various sewer work. So this way, again, emergency comes up, we already have qualified contractors who have been vetted and have the appropriate insurance, et cetera, to do the repairs as needed, so.
Well, that's terrific, actually, because
So just to clarify, this is to authorize the village to retain them as may be needed when
When we have
time
a-
does not permit a formal bid
Right,
process.
and it's an emergency that's outside the scope and capabilities of the existing personnel of the Department
And the
of Public
villages
Works.
work with all 4 of these.
Yes, yes.
Right,
yeah.
extensively, right.
all right, I will move that then.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Trustees, we got a lot accomplished this, before I open it to the public, did we forget anything or any additional comments? No? Then this is the time anyone can address the board on any topic, and we just ask if you come to the microphone and just give us your name and address if you would, and thank you.
And also, please limit comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, please help us out. Hi, how are you?
Good evening, thank you. My name's Tom Bellone, I live at 28 Ridgecroft. Although my wife and I came here to offer input on the outdoor dining structures,
Yeah,
I'm getting the sense that that may be premature, notwithstanding what was listed on the website. Will there be another opportunity after your consultant gives you?
Absolutely. Part of his job is going to be to solicit the residents and the people who use it to see your views. That is absolutely part of the process, is the short answer.
So tonight really wouldn't be the night.
Oh, he could do it.
Will you continue? Yeah.
No, we're
Yeah.
wrestling with it. So
Yeah,
if you have comments, please
we're
let us
ready
know.
to
It's
listen.
not, well, I'm going to turn it over to my wife, Rosemary.
Okay.
Just here for the adjournment.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't jumping the gun.
No, you're not. Hi, Rosemary.
Good evening. Excuse me, let me just put my reading glasses. My name is Rosemary Ballone. I also live at 28 Ridgecroft Road with my husband, who is present this evening, as well as my one son. We have lived in that home for 33 years, and we have raised two sons who are now adults. One is 34 years of age, and my younger son, who is here this evening, is 33. Both boys attended the Bronxville School, K through 12. We are members of St. Joseph's Parish, and we have been active attending Mass each week for all of the time that we've lived here. We have also always voted in every local election. We are firmly embedded in the fabric of the life in this village. This is the first time in over 33 years of living in this village that I have ever spoken out publicly to express my opposition to any proposals made regarding anything concerning our village. But I feel that I must speak out in opposition to the proposal to retain the outdoor dining program to make it permanent for the following reasons. Number one, when you, Mayor Marvin, along with this board, initially granted permission to the restaurant owners back in 2021 to erect these structures and to notify the village residents, the understanding was that the sole basis for doing so was to provide relief to the restaurant owners who suffered financially because of the pandemic and enable them to stay afloat rather than close their businesses. It was to be a temporary situation for a finite period of time of 1 year. At the time, I had serious concerns about this plan to erect these structures, but I wanted to support these restaurant owners as my husband and I frequented many of these restaurants over these many years. After the first year, in 2022, this board renewed this plan for an additional year. Again, my concerns remained, but I still voiced no opposition. Well, here we are now moving into year 3, and now this board is considering retaining this outdoor dining program, possibly indefinitely, even though that original sole basis no longer exists. The pandemic is now over, and the original reason given by this board has now morphed into something completely different. That is not what we, the village residents, were led to believe, and that is not what we signed on to. As a result, I feel badly misled. Number 2, these outdoor structures have become a blight on our village. They are unsightly monstrosities that degrade the charm, character, and aesthetics of our beautiful, lovely village. With the exception of 1 or 2 owners, no attempt has been made to keep these structures looking presentable. In addition, due to the fact that food is being served each day outside, I've observed an increasing number of rat bait stations strategically placed throughout the village, proximate to the restaurants, which seems to suggest a direct correlation between the outdoor dining and the proliferation of rats in the village. Number 3, in every case where a structure has been erected, precious parking, which has always been at a premium, have now been eliminated, some taking up to 3 and 4 spaces. Number 4, in many cases, these structures cause real traffic safety issues because employees of companies like DoorDash, Grubhub, and Uber Eats double parked directly next to these structures, leaving these cars parked unattended, which necessitates drivers to go around them, having to veer into oncoming traffic, going in the opposite direction, making it extremely hazardous for drivers, but especially for pedestrians who attempt to cross the street where the line of sight to drivers is extremely limited, making pedestrians vulnerable to possibly being hit and or even killed by a car. Number 5, lastly, but equally as important, the potential benefit derived by a few restaurants must be weighed against the hundreds of tax-paying village residents who are also your constituents. That being said, I would strongly encourage any village residents watching this meeting tonight on the local station that if they agree with any of the reasons that I have just enumerated, to contact Mayor Marvin and Mr. Jim Palmer, the village administrator, and to please voice your opposition to the permanent retention of these outdoor dining structures and programs, as this was not the original reason which was presented to us, which was solely to aid a few restaurant owners on a temporary basis to help them stay open during the pandemic. If we don't get our arms around this, if this is voted on permanently, please remember that there is no going back from this, and our beautiful, charming, and bucolic village will be permanently and negatively altered forever. At this time, I would like to express my approval and appreciation of the appointment of 2 new police officers to our Bronxville Police Force, and I hope that the hiring of these new recruits will bring about more of a proactive police presence throughout the village, but in particular within the confines of the business district, where said police presence is most greatly and urgently needed.
Okay, could I, just in fairness to everyone, it's been almost 8 minutes.
I have one small page and then I will
Thank
finish.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for indulging me. In closing, it is my fervent hope that this is not just a formality and that this board will take into serious consideration all of the above reasons that I have just outlined in opposing the continuation of this outdoor dining program, and end this program and direct the restaurant owners to begin the removal process and to dismantle these outdoor structures so that we can reclaim all these precious parking spaces that the village so desperately needs. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to state my opposition to this proposal, and I want to wish everyone a blessed holiday season, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah, and a happy and healthy New Year to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things, and I don't mean to keep you, but no one meant to mislead anyone. We did do it, we never did it year by year. We really looked at, was COVID still going on? So we had no plans. We went along with, adjusting accordingly to the epidemic. But that being said, we listened to you tonight and we heard what you said, and we will frankly share it with the consultant.
Okay.
And thank you, because I know you've been a very good, I've known you forever, and you've been a great Bronxville citizen.
Well,
So,
I certainly hope that, As I said, the initial reason, which was presented to the residents of Bronxville, was solely to help them out due to the pandemic. And that is not what this has now become.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you,
And can I just
Rosemary.
add that it's the general practice that when we get comment from citizens by email, whether they go to Jim Palmer or to the mayor, it's the general practice to circulate them to the other trustees. So, people don't need to send 5 separate sets of emails, but all the trustees are interested and pay attention to anything that comes in.
Good point. Anyone else on any topic? Yes, thank you.
My name is Jim Hennessy. I live at 49 Elm Rock Road. I was wondering if you could just go back for a second on your opening comments with respect to the hiring of an engineer for the crosswalk, and just clarify for my own benefit, and unfortunately my neighbors couldn't make it here tonight, but just clarify for my own benefit, is this an engineer that is going to build on what the original consultant did on the work that was presented to the board here, and then I guess the construction started, right?
No, construction has started.
Well,
Sidewalk.
the sidewalk was actually installed, and then it was taken out, and the curb
Right.
was redone.
We fixed the curb, but that's all we've done, frankly.
Right, okay. But there was a sidewalk that was contemplated putting in because the construction was done on that. Some of that work was done. It's since been remedied and put
Removed.
back.
Yeah.
But my question is the engineer that you are talking to now, is that engineer in conjunction with the consultant that the village had originally used for this project?
It will be, and it's actually the person that we're contemplating is the gentleman who did the West Side Circle, and he's just an independent outside traffic engineer.
There's no relation to.
No relation.
It's
Okay,
a
great.
de novo work.
And then 2 other quick questions, if
Sure.
you don't mind. The second one is the work that was done by the original consultant,
Yes.
that I think we all had our eyes on in a meeting in November. Did the Village of Bronxville pay for that work? So is that part of, like, you voted on hiring, let's say, a consultant this evening with respect to outdoor dining?
Right.
Was the same process instituted for the hiring of this consultant when the village asked them to do this work?
Yeah. Jim, do you have the dates
So
on
the-
that?
Yeah, so the answer to that question, though, is the first consultant that was retained was FHI Studios. That was at no expense to the village. They were retained actually by Westchester County. So Westchester County brought that consultant in to look at various corridors, to look at Route 22 and about the feasibility of a crosswalk. Subsequent to that, yes, the second consultant was retained by the same process, issuance of an RFP, vetting the RFP, and getting responses to the RFP.
Terrific. And then my last question is, when a couple of my neighbors had mentioned that they've offered written communication to the board, to you and the board, about this project, but we've not gotten anything back from you all. Now, that's not expected, obviously, because this is ongoing.
Right.
However, there's no acknowledgement of that communication. Is that something that you would want, you'd encourage, or we're just trying to figure out, like, when do we know you received a letter, or when do we know you received an email?
I understand.
There was some pretty thoughtful things gone into it.
Yes.
And a couple of people, and believe me, they'd rather be here, but they have stuff with their kids tonight.
Right.
They were just like, can you please just ask the board, like, when someone says, hey, I had an idea, I had a thought that we didn't fully uncover originally in November, or maybe the board can give this some thought, and I wrote them a letter. They're not getting an acknowledgement that a letter was written to you or received by you on this. And is there a way to do that, or is this just going to all be like at another big meeting or something? You know, I'm just.
Yeah. No, we are, to your point, we all received, I think there were 2 very extensive
Yes.
letters, which is why, and frankly, we're working on a response, but we're in the middle of, we're trying to lay out the next logical steps, and perhaps going forward, and certainly myself, we probably should have said, we are in receipt of your email, and the topics, which they truly are being actively discussed as a board. So, yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a good process we should do.
Yes. But going forward, you're absolutely right. We should
Acknowledge receipt.
just acknowledge receipt.
Trying to get more communicative
Yes.
and get more
Yes.
involved, and I think
Yes.
that there are a couple people up there that just felt like,
Yeah.
not neglected, but like,
Yeah.
they wrote this letter and didn't even hear back that you received it.
Right. And what we really were trying to do is not write back some off the cuffers, but really give thoughtful
Yeah,
responses.
I think it was sort of, hey, we got your letter.
Yes, okay.
We'll get back.
Yeah.
We get that, right. Okay.
Point well taken.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, anyone else on any topic in the village? Good evening. Hi.
Justin Smith, I live at 1 Dusenberry. I just was thinking and listening to what Jim was asking about, and so a couple of thoughts occurred to me. Questions, really. I was hoping Mayor Marvin, you or one of the other trustees could provide a little bit more detail about the traffic engineer that was interviewed. What's the status of that? Are you looking at other potential engineers? What is the purpose for which the engineer is being retained or prospectively being retained? Following up on the letters, I think one letter was on behalf of at least 30 of us. Another letter, although not with us as signatories, was in the spirit of, I think, the same 30. I think both of those letters indicated a preference for a pause, which I think you indicated at the outset was what you were contemplating. But prior to saying that there was a pause, you said, well, we conducted this interview. So it seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect. I don't know if by pause, you simply mean a pause on the physical work while the other work proceeds, and the sort of interviewing and prospective work, that is not of a physical, concrete pouring nature proceeds. But a number of us were concerned about even the ongoing retention of an engineer going forward, and thought that a better process would be more community involvement. So I guess two questions. What's the status and timing and purpose behind the consideration of a traffic engineer? And second, would you consider putting a pause on that process, as with the concrete pouring, until you can get more community input?
Well, I think the idea was to have a professional look at this from a new set of eyes, and the idea was, as part of his work, he will be reaching out to people, anyone in the area, anybody in the village, as to their views on the crosswalk. But it's important for us to, frankly, we have to have professionals, to be honest, because we could never put in anything just based on more neighbors like it here than neighbors like it there, because there's huge liability issues when you change things on village streets. So we look to professionals, and as part of his work will be obviously to solicit opinions of those who live near the crosswalk, who like the crosswalk, who don't like the concept, and then bring it back to us. But we have to work in tandem with both professionals, and because we can't do something, quite frankly, as serious as a crosswalk just based on personal opinions. So it's a two-pronged process going on simultaneously.
And what's the timing?
Mayor, just to clarify, I think that we're going to get guidance and provide our own thought as to how to get fuller community outreach. It's not that the consultant will necessarily
do it all.
Be the person, but I think that we're trying to make sure that a full spectrum has had an opportunity to weigh in, And of course, there has been public comment and input from certain sectors, and we appreciate that some folks it would have been nice to have gotten their input sooner, and we're looking to address that. And I think, as the mayor said, on technical issues, of course, we on safety issues, we give consultants' views considerable attention, because that's why they're experts.
Well, we also have to consider, we have to have professionals, because, God forbid if something happened, we can't say, well, we put the crosswalk there because it was the most popular place to a crosswalk. That just opens up to us to incredible liability. So our duty is to do both, get citizen input and professional engineering help, and we have to do it in tandem.
Yeah, and I think in this case to get, just add to get additional input, because it's not as if, this project was done without any consultation with consultants beforehand. But, as the mayor said, we're taking a pause and double checking things. We have the time to do that in the winter, and we want to get it right, and I'm confident that the process and the board will in the end get it right.
What's the timing, and do you have other prospective interviews coming up?
So I think what the board is contemplating, but to the mayor and the trustees' point, the purpose of the engineer would be to do additional data collection, since in the discussions with residents of Elm Rock expressing concern about the quality of the data and the credibility of the data, one of the principal purposes that the board is contemplating would be charging the engineer with doing additional data collection objectively, and that is setting up cameras strategically determined if the pedestrian volume is there, as the group mentioned, is where's the most appropriate location. If the data is there for the crosswalk, where would it be? Items of that consideration, but I think what the board is also considering is perhaps to, also what the board has heard is, in terms of doing outreach, reaching out to the impacted areas, a survey that would be done prior to retaining the engineer to provide further guidance to the engineer in his tasks. But I think one of the principal pieces of the engineer would be to, again, do the data collection, since there were concerns about the quality of data, perhaps the subjectivity of the data. So this would be done not on
a long period of time.
right, and the timing of that is something that the board is discussing. Is perhaps the survey would be done in January, and the data collection would be done subsequent to that, perhaps February, and perhaps maybe another grouping in March. I don't know. That's kind of something to be.
Because we have a little bit of time, because it's the the winter months. We have some time.
So did I understand you right to say that the survey to residents would take place before the formal retaining?
It probably will be on a parallel track.
When would you be looking to hire whether this consultant or engineer or another one? Is that like the February, March timeframe that you're looking at?
Yeah.
Right, and when the engineer is retained, that item too would be put on a future agenda, but it's something that the board could consider approving at the January meeting or February meeting. Right.
Do you have other prospects, or is it pretty much this one that you interviewed?
Well, we frankly know the work, and the work he's done work for all sorts of communities, and he's done honestly terrific work for us on the West Side Circle. And he was somebody that we went to and are under discussions with. So, barring, again, it has to be a conversation with my colleagues, but we're going in that direction.
So I guess my final point then is just to, I think, reiterate a couple of the points that were made both in the letter that was emailed and the separate email, is that a number of my neighbors have concerns with even the prospect of going forward with this particular potential item. I mean, as opposed to saying, the item being, should we have a crosswalk across 22 near Elm Rock? As opposed to taking a broader lens, as we talked about in the November meeting, and saying, let's take a more, let's expand outward and say, well, what projects should we be considering generally? This is maybe one of dozens.
And it is.
And as opposed to, look at this, yay or nay, based on what the consultant says, as opposed to saying, there are 10, 20, 30 projects we could be undertaking to improve walkability, and we should be considering all of those and considering where our money would be best spent. And by surveying and having a consultant that considers all of those, as you mentioned, crosswalks at Pondfield or Tanglewild, work on Sagamore or Parkway or south of Pondfield or wherever it may be, any of them, dozens of projects. And so the concern is that it's looking very narrowly at this one potential crosswalk and saying, well, we're going to evaluate this up or down, as opposed to broadening the lens and saying, let's look more broadly.
Okay. Well, we are doing, we had four initiatives on tonight's agenda, and I have to say this has been, a group of people came to us over 2 years ago and really have, spoken to us about it. This is a particular issue. We're going to be looking at all corners of the village, but this is a particular issue that's on the front burner right now, and I know your group didn't feel like you weren't happy with the data and you weren't happy with the communications, even though honestly we did mass communications. We did not do emails. So this was a way of, but we're constantly looking at different projects throughout the village. This just happens to be one that's front and center due to the efforts of, over 100 of your neighbors coming to us to focus on it. So
I think that you're hitting on, the concern that those on the other side of the issue have, that it just happens that this is front-burnered, but there are any of a number of projects that should be front-burnered, and there isn't a justifiable reason for this one to be front-burnered. You mentioned that the neighbors and I had concerns about communication and data collection, which is true, but fundamentally the concern is that this isn't the right project, and that there are other projects for which money would be better spent. And the way to determine what those projects are is not to say, here's one project, let's throw some consultants at it. It's to say, let's look at the entire village and where sidewalks can be improved, where crosswalks can best be made, as opposed to one or the other.
that's exactly what we're doing, and we're doing it in all corners of the village. And tonight, 4 of them just came up, and this is just another one that we're looking at. And we'll be continuing to look all over the village.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know what, could you just wait to see if someone else hasn't had a turn yet? That's all. Thank you, David.
Ashley
Yeah.
Ching, 22 Greenfield, thank you.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing about data integrity issues. I've just recently heard about this on the survey. Can you talk a little bit about, because I thought that there was 4 surveys, can we get specific dates on when these surveys were done through the consultants? Because I don't think anyone was aware of those specific dates, so I'd like if you guys could publish that.
Okay.
Because I think that, there's a lot of column to data integrity, but I want to make sure that everyone in Bronxville has the specific dates,
Okay.
because I think that would clear up some misinformation out there.
Okay.
Because we weren't aware of it as part of, our group.
Okay.
In terms of the specific dates, I think Mr. Palmer was out there counting.
Okay. We will, can we put them on the website?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll put them on the website.
That'd be great. I just want to make sure that, because I think there's some misinformation out there in terms of integrity of data.
Okay.
So.
All right. Our attempt, just so you know, our attempt is to, work on projects that are mutually beneficial and will help our walkability plan. And, we're also trying to, in a village of only 3,600 adults, we're trying to come to, a level of cooperation. And, some projects, some folks don't like our sidewalks, adding in different areas, and we're trying to balance the interests of folks and a little bit of cost-benefit analysis. But we will absolutely put that information up for you.
I don't envy your jobs. That's why you get paid the big bucks. To balance immediate neighbors' interests versus community-wide interest. I'm just puzzled by one thing, though, and maybe you help clarify it. It's really not about the survey, and it's not about the study, because if this study shows that the crosswalk is okay there, that's not the issue. The issue that you've raised is there should even be considering the crosswalk there. I don't understand if we hired two highly respected consultants and we're dissatisfied with their work, why haven't they been brought before this committee to answer the concerns that have been raised? I don't understand it.
Well, it's not a question of dissatisfied with their work. There was a group of citizens who came to us and said, we don't think their data was objective. And so in an effort to kind of coalesce around trying to have most people, when you make a change in the village, you want to do it with the best possible opinions, data, et cetera. So this is a little bit of, all right, we listened and we're going to bring somebody in. So it's not impugning those other people in any way. It's just trying to, be the small village that we are and listening to people and bringing in a new voice.
I went to California after our last meeting, and I told my daughter out there how wonderful and responsive this village is. It's sort of the ideals of our founding fathers about a small thing. But I do think that, and I respect your desire to get more input, but I think if there have been serious charges raised about the integrity of the data, and we owe it to the consultants, at least let them listen to why the neighbors are concerned before going out and hiring another consultant. Or maybe we should do both. But I think we owe it to those consultants. People will ask, why didn't we follow them? And what are we going to say? There's questions about the integrity of the data?
Well, I think they stand by their data. We're just trying to, just get, almost like, two doctors and you go to a third, just we're getting a second opinion.
And to that
And it's only because, honestly, we're just trying to be responsive.
I understand that.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Madam.
No, that's okay,
No,
Jim.
And to your point, David, I think part of the charge, if the board retained the engineer, would be to look at the, as we say, from a wider lens, look at that corridor on a larger basis. Because I think one of the requests that came in from the group was, what about other locations? So perhaps just stretching, taking a step back and looking at that corridor from perhaps Woodland down to perhaps as far as Sherman, possibly. So again, the data, pedestrian counts, traffic counts, it would capture a wider area. And in conjunction with that, I think one of the requests came up, what about doing something with the pond field at Route 22? And perhaps this is something that the village hasn't explained sufficiently enough to everyone, and that was something that was started almost 10 years ago to request that the Department of Transportation put a pedestrian signal in at that that location, which absolutely would make total logical sense for a crosswalk.
Yeah, Jim, I think just without going, because it's getting late. I mean, I think that with Route 22, just so residents, people viewing, Route 22 is controlled by the state, and so there's this whole other overlay of interfaces that has had to be dealt with, and whether you want to move quick or slow, unfortunately, we don't have unilateral control over certain things.
Right, and just that it's a state signal, but it is on their schedule to be done, unfortunately, with other projects. But it's a state road, that's a state signal. but it is scheduled to have pedestrian push buttons. Unfortunately, pre-COVID, it kept getting pushed down the line, and now we're at 2025, but we're working on that too. So anyway, multiple pieces.
Is the state money still available?
That would still be done at this, that would still be done at the state expense, that improvement.
Thank you.
You know, our process is just, honestly, the bottom line is just to make sure everybody who lives in such a small village is heard. That's really,
Being there.
thank you. Anyone else like to say anything on the topic? You know, I just want to, as much as, you know, people question the data, I just have to also mention that, you know, the group of folks who worked very hard on bringing the issue of a crosswalk at whatever location forward, and we are very respectful to them as well. Any trustees, any other thoughts?
No, I just want to thank everyone for the engagement and the thoughtful preparation and the really considerate way of presenting your thoughts and ideas to this board. I really appreciate it.
I think it'll make the outcome, whatever the outcome is, stronger and more acceptable to a bigger portion of the community.
And we did learn something tonight, that your point, no matter how long an email is, that we should just say we're in receipt of it and we're reviewing the issues. So thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Hennessy. All righty. Seeing no other, do I have a motion to adjourn till January 9th? And I wish everybody the happiest of holidays with your families.
And shop local.
Shop local, yeah. Do I have a motion and a second? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, for coming.